I'll never forget the night it all went down. We were just sitting on the couch, the TV a muted blur in the background. My girlfriend Rebecca had just gotten home from dinner with her ex Liam. It was a regular thing. One of those closure coffees or catch-up dinners she'd been having for months. Each time a little piece of me died inside. But I'd always swallowed the discomfort and let it go. Tonight was different. She had on a familiar scent, a certain cologne I'd smelled on her jacket before, and it felt like a silent slap in the face. All I wanted was a straight answer, a simple admission, so I asked, "How was dinner with Liam?" The response I got was a laugh. Not a warm, genuine laugh, but a small, condescending smirk that made my blood run cold. She actually thought it was funny. "You get so jealous when I see my ex," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "Maybe that means you're not boyfriend material." I didn't say a word. I just sat there, the silence in the room suddenly deafening. Her words echoed in my head, a final, unappealable verdict. Not boyfriend material. She expected an argument, a fight, a desperate plea. When she didn't get one, she huffed, stood up, and disappeared into the bedroom. Slamming the door, I stayed on the couch. And in that quiet moment, I made my decision. She was right. I wasn't material for a boyfriend like her. And with that, I was done. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. I could almost picture her thinking I'd spend the day stewing in my jealousy, only to come crawling back with an apology. She was dead wrong. Instead, I went to a storage unit, picked up a dozen large cardboard boxes, and spent the rest of the day in a cold, quiet rage. I was methodical, not destructive. I wrapped her ceramic mugs in newspaper, put her jewelry in a separate box, and carefully packed every last item that belonged to her. There was no breaking, no throwing, no keeping anything as a souvenir. By the time I was done, 12 taped-up boxes were stacked neatly by the front door. I found Liam's address on an old Christmas card, and with a few clicks, I had paid over $200 for a premium courier service. The confirmation email came through at 4:15 p.m., complete with a tracking number. I printed the receipt and left it on the now empty coffee table. I had just shipped every single one of her belongings straight to her ex's front door. The first frantic phone call came at 7:03 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. The message was pure confusion, then rage. "What did you do? Where's all my stuff?" This isn't funny. 5 more calls followed in rapid succession. I ignored them all. Then came the texts, a flood of them, moving from confusion to full-blown threats. It was a spectacle of a tantrum, and I watched it all unfold from behind a thick pane of glass. Completely unmoved, the real show started the next day. A call from an unknown number. I answered, put it on speaker, and calmly waited. It was her mother, Karen. "I don't know what kind of sick game you're playing," she began, her voice shrill with indignation. "You can't just throw her out on the street. She has rights. You have to let her back in to get her things." I listened patiently until she was finished. "Good morning, Karen," I said, my voice calm and even. "All of Rebecca's things have been delivered to her. She should check with Liam. As for her living here, I'd suggest you review the lease agreement for apartment 4B. I had her. That was the first major pillar of my plan. Built on a rock-solid foundation, when we first moved in, I was the only one who signed the lease. Her credit wasn't great, and at the time, it felt like a supportive gesture. Now, it was my ironclad shield. The lease had a crystal-clear guest clause that stated any single guest stay was limited to 14 consecutive days. She had been my guest for 2 years, and I had never asked for the landlord's consent. I could hear her sputtering on the other end of the line, but she paid rent. She shot back. "No," I corrected her. "She transferred money to my account to help with expenses. All rent and utility payments came exclusively from my bank account. She has no financial ties to this property." I could practically feel her fury through the phone before she finally hung up. Threatening me with a lawyer, I immediately drafted an email to my landlord, Mr. Henderson, with the subject line, "Guest Departure Notification." I hit send. And less than an hour later, I had a reply confirming my file had been updated. Another piece of evidence for my collection. For a couple of days, there was an eerie silence. I almost started to believe the drama was over, that the threats of lawyers were nothing but a bluff. I should have known better. The next attack came from a different direction entirely. Our social circle, we had a core group of mutual friends, and soon enough, I got a text from Sarah. "Hey, can I call you?" She asked. "Something's come up." She sounded hesitant. "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of this, but Rebecca has been posting some really nasty stuff in our group chat. She's telling everyone you had a psychotic break, that you screamed at her and threw her out with nothing but the clothes on her back because you're a jealous, controlling monster." My stomach turned into a cold knot. It wasn't enough to just end things. She had to try and destroy my reputation too. I calmly asked Sarah if she believed her. She paused for a moment, then admitted that it didn't sound like me. But Rebecca was being incredibly convincing. "Could you send me screenshots?" I asked. A minute later, my phone buzzed with 5 images from their WhatsApp group. The gang. Her texts were a masterclass in manipulation, tear emojis, dramatic pronouncements. And the worst lie of all, that I had screamed at her for hours and threatened her. This was the smear campaign I had expected, but seeing the specifics made it real. I knew a simple denial wouldn't work. It would be my word against her dramatic performance. I needed irrefutable proof. I spent the next hour crafting my response, not for the group chat, but for a single, targeted message to Mark and Sarah, the two I trusted the most. I wrote, "I'm not going to engage in a public argument, but I do want you, our closest friends, to know the truth." Then I attached 3 key pieces of evidence. A screenshot of a text where she admitted to lying about being with Sarah when she was actually with Liam. A screenshot of the courier receipt proving I had paid to have all her things delivered. And the final text she had sent me before I decided to end things. In that third screenshot, her dismissive reply to my concern was clear. "Stop being so insecure. It's not attractive. If you can't handle it, that's your problem." I put that text right next to her group chat message claiming I was a controlling psycho. The contrast was stark. I ended my message with a single, brutal sentence. I never screamed. I never threatened her. And I never threw her things away. I just took her at her word that I wasn't boyfriend material. And I sent her and her belongings to the person she clearly preferred to spend her time with. I hit send and turned my phone off for the night. The next morning, I had a reply from Mark. "Wow. Just wow. We had no idea. We're so sorry we even questioned you." Emily and Ben never reached out. The friend group was fractured, just like that. Rebecca had overplayed her hand, assuming I would take the abuse and sit back. She didn't realize I was documenting everything. I thought that was the end of it. The apartment was finally quiet, clean, and felt like my own space again. I bought a new rug and threw out the lavender-scented candles she loved. It was peaceful, but then came the third escalation. The most audacious of them all. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and a number I didn't recognize buzzed my phone. It was Karen, her mom. Again, this time her tone wasn't angry. It was dripping with fake sweetness. "Hello," she said, her voice syrupy. "Listen, I know things have been tense, but Rebecca has realized she left a very important family heirloom behind. Her great-grandmother's pearl necklace. It's absolutely priceless." I stayed silent. Letting her spin her story, she continued, her voice cracking with fake emotion. "She's devastated. Could we please arrange a time for her to come by, just for 5 minutes, to look for it?" My blood ran cold. This was a Trojan horse. There was no necklace. This was a calculated attempt to regain access to the apartment. Once inside, she could refuse to leave, claim tenancy, and start a new nightmare of legal battles. They were using sentimentality as a weapon. I knew I couldn't just say no. That would make me look cruel and unreasonable. I had to prove they were lying. "That does sound serious," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "Let me check. I have a security camera in the living room pointed at the front door. I'll review the footage from the day she left." If she wasn't wearing it when she walked out, then it must still be in the apartment somewhere. I'll call you back in an hour. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could practically hear the gears turning in Karen's head as her plan came crashing down. "Oh," she said, her voice suddenly small. "A camera? I see." I hung up and immediately went to my laptop. The camera was a simple Wisecam, but it recorded clear, time-stamped video. I found the footage from the morning she left, the day I packed her things. At 8:12 a.m., the front door opened, and Rebecca walked out, clear as day. Against her black blouse was the pearl necklace. It wasn't some tiny piece of jewelry. It was a statement piece she wore to big events. She was wearing it as she walked out of my life for good. I clipped the 15-second video, zoomed in on the necklace for a moment to make it unmistakable, and attached the file to a new email. The recipient was Karen. The subject line was short and to the point. "Found it." In the body, I wrote only one sentence: "Good news." The necklace wasn't left behind after all. See attached video from 8:12 a.m. on September 10th. I hit send. There was no reply, not a text, not a call, not another email, nothing. That was the checkmate. I had just proven with indisputable evidence that not only was Rebecca lying, but her mother was complicit in the lie. They had tried to run a calculated, manipulative play, and they got caught red-handed. The humiliation must have been absolute. The fallout from that final move was total silence from their side. But the story had one last unexpected chapter. About a month after the necklace incident, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, this is Liam. You don't know me, but you shipped your ex-girlfriend's stuff to my house a while back." My first instinct was to block the number. I was done with all of them, but curiosity got the better of me. I replied with a single question mark. His response came a minute later. "Just wanted to say thanks. That was the craziest, most eye-opening thing that's ever happened to me. She showed up at my door that night screaming about you, then tried to move into my spare room. It took me 2 weeks to get her out. She's a lunatic. You dodged a nuclear missile." Man, I stared at the text. I hadn't considered Liam's perspective in all of this. He wasn't just the ex. He was the unwilling recipient of my revenge. He was the final piece of collateral damage in Rebecca's campaign of chaos. I typed back, "Sorry you got dragged into that. Hope it's all sorted now." His final text was the real closure. All sorted. Blocked her on everything. Realized how much therapy I needed after we broke up the first time. Your little delivery service was like the world's most expensive reminder. Cheers, man. I read his message and felt a sense of finality. It was truly over. The drama was exhausted, the lies exposed. The bridges burned to ash. Her attempts to control me, smear me, and trick me had all failed because I refused to play her emotional games. I relied only on facts, evidence, and the terms of our agreements. I blocked Rebecca's number. I blocked her mother's number. I went into the kitchen and poured myself a whiskey, enjoying the profound and simple quiet of my own space.